In the spring of 845 AD, the people of Paris awoke to an unsettling sound, horns echoing across the River Seine. Through the dawn fog, the silhouettes of sleek, dragon-headed ships began to appear, gliding silently on the water. On board were the most feared warriors in Europe, and their leader's name was whispered with both terror and awe: Ragnar Lothbrok. This wasn't just a raid, it was an invasion that would shake an empire to its core. A massive fleet of 120 Viking longships had set sail from the Danish coast, carving a path of destruction up the rivers of Francia. They burned and looted everything in their path, their eyes fixed on the ultimate prize, the city of Paris. At the time, Paris was the wealthiest city in the Frankish kingdom, ruled by King Charles the Bald, the grandson of the legendary Charlemagne. The Franks, desperate to halt the advance, assembled a small army near Rouen to block the river. But Ragnar was a brilliant strategist. He simply divided his forces, attacked the Frankish army from both sides, and crushed them completely. As a grim warning to anyone else who dared to resist, the captured soldiers were hanged from trees along the riverbank for all to see. The message was clear: surrender or die. Back then, Paris wasn't the sprawling metropolis we know today. It was a small, fortified island in the middle of the Seine called the Île de la Cité. As the Viking longships swarmed the riverbanks and warriors began to disembark, the bells of the old church that stood where Notre Dame is today rang out in alarm. The Parisian defenders quickly barricaded the bridges connecting their island to the mainland and prepared for a brutal siege. But the Norsemen's fury was relentless. They didn't just attack the walls. They pillaged the surrounding farmlands, burning villages and cutting off all supplies to the city. It wasn't long before the specters of starvation and disease began to stalk the streets of Paris. With no relief army in sight and his own soldiers falling ill, King Charles the Bald faced an impossible choice: fight a hopeless battle to the last man, or pay the invaders to leave. Ragnar knew the king was cornered. He sent a message demanding a ransom so enormous it would cripple the entire Frankish kingdom. The price for Paris's safety? 7,000 livres of silver. That's nearly 2.5 tons of pure silver. A staggering fortune. Desperate to save his city and his people from further bloodshed and starvation, King Charles agreed to the terms. The Vikings loaded their ships with the immense treasure, laughed at the humiliated Franks, and simply sailed away. Paris was saved, but only for a little while. The massive payment set a dangerous and costly precedent. News of Ragnar's incredible haul spread like wildfire throughout the Viking world. Soon, rivers all across Europe were filled with longships, as other chieftains arrived demanding their own payment, known as Danegeld. The Franks learned a hard lesson. Paying off attackers only invited more attacks. They realized that to truly stop the raids, they needed to build stronger fortifications, not just around Paris, but along their coasts and rivers. They also needed a navy of their own to meet the Vikings on the water. The siege of 845 was a turning point that forever changed how medieval Europe defended itself against the northern threat. More than 1,000 years have passed since that fateful spring. Paris still stands proudly on that same island, a global symbol of culture and resilience, rebuilt and fortified over centuries. But beneath its grand boulevards and historic stones lies the faint echo of that terrifying day. A memory of a time when the river carried dragons and the name of Ragnar Lothbrok struck fear into the very heart of France. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey back in time interesting, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from history. See you in the next video.